YouTube. Bam, welcome. March 19th, Peterborough Select Board meeting. Tyler Ward, we have fellow Select Board member Bill Kennedy here. Other guys out sick, Bill Taylor. Nicole McStay's here, Town Administrator, and Alan Brooks is
Also
off-site
outside.
taking notes.
Referring
back to the video.
Referring back to the video more likely.
It's being captured, we're on air right now, Tim Bresnick behind the scenes. Tonight we'll have a public hearing with amendments to the code book due to pursuant to RSA 41:9-A. Talk about the transfer station's recycling facility and recreation facilities, rules and regulations. And then we're going to hear from at least one person, maybe about the Affordable Housing Committee and an application for a housing mini grant. We're going to skip our InvestNH Hampshire Demolition grant
Yep, that's
discussion.
been withdrawn.
And then some trust fund requests to expend, and minutes from March 14th to approve. And then at the end of the meeting, we'll have a non-public session. With that, I'd like to make a motion that we open the public hearing due to RSA 41:9-A, amendments to the code book.
I better second that.
All those in favor? Aye. All right, who's going first? It says transfer station.
Happy to.
On the list first.
All right.
Welcome, Seth McLean.
Thank you, Tyler.
Assistant Town Administrator, Director of Public Works.
So what you're seeing on the screen, excuse me, right now is a few scenarios that were originally presented, a different iteration through the budget process this year, which we received some comments from the BudCom, the Select Board at that time, and I tried to incorporate what I heard. But let's a little bit of background to make sense of this. So, talking about the pay-as-you-throw program, and specifically the price of the blue bags that users of the facility are required to use in order to dispose of the facility. The program was established 2 decades, I don't even know this, a long time, and has never, to our knowledge, on the staff now, ever experienced any price increases. So it was set up initially to both fund the disposal of waste, but also to save some money in the pay-as-you-throw special revenue fund, I think that's what it's called, to capture additional money so that if there was a repair or some other consideration that would support the pay-as-you-throw program, there would be some money available. Now, we all know what's happened with the economy over the last couple of years. Price increases, particularly diesel, supplies, professional services have gone basically through the roof. And we made a sort of calculated decision, given the number of increases this community had experienced over the last couple of years, specific to the annual budget, that the fund could support it, but this conversation was inevitably going to be happening. So we didn't take this up last year as things started to look a little bit tight because there was still some money in the account to support. But recent developments mean it's time to have this conversation because our contract values once again have gone up from our hauling provider, and significantly so, putting us quicker into the red than we had anticipated. So that's sort of the history of the program where we're at today. What we're looking to do right now, we're currently, and I'll just read from this if you don't mind. The program costs about $112,000 a year presently. So between purchasing of the plastic bags and then paying for a hauler to come and get the compactor, right now it's about $112,000 annually. When the program functions properly, it's self-supporting. We make some money on the bags that goes back into the into the account, and then we're able to pay for the hauling from that. Given the contract values increased considerably, the cost of bags have not kept up. Now we're anticipating a 6% price increase at some point, right, over the coming year. I don't know if you have a date on that yet.
I do have.
And so what I've tried to do is sort of disregard the $112,000 that we need to get to for a bottom line to properly fund this program, and sort of start this anticipating needing to get to about $119,000 total for this thing to self-support. And then a few other scenarios that adjust the bag pricing so that you got a couple more options to consider. And of course, could be considering things that aren't on the board as well, but trying to give a few scenarios. A couple things that were provided to me through the budget committee this past year. People had suggested that they wanted to see whatever percent increase equalized over both the small and large bags. So I've got everything sort of at a table here, small bags. So apply the same percent increase to both to try and get to our target numbers. And then a couple comments about, give us a couple more scenarios too, so we're looking a little bit further range. And of course, we could look at even more from a staff perspective. Professionally, we wanted to try to do this as responsibly as possible, close to the bottom line, because people do feel these increases. And when we do need to make up some money, looking at this chart, you can go from a 43% increase, which gets us whole, with anticipation of the 6% price increases coming year on hauling, which gets us about to where we need to be on our bottom line. And then again, a couple other scenarios, increasing 47%, 53%, and 60%, which essentially, if all other things remain equal, based on the math that we've done, would yield you a few $1,000s in the bank on top of needing to fund the program anticipated at $119,000 in the next coming months. So we are here to discuss that. The Budget Committee and the Select Board through the budget process this year made it fairly clear, I think unanimously, that they'd rather look at increasing the price of bags than supporting the program with the operating budget, and we had presented at that time both scenarios just for discussion, and so here we are tonight. We've got sort of the long and short of it.
When this program was created, any idea if the bags were kept rather inexpensively to kind of get people involved with doing this? And then secondly, why has it never increased? And thirdly, I'm sure I'll have some else, but yeah.
I'm sure there are more.
Why hasn't it just increased over the years?
I don't know why the pricing was set the way it was, because that far predates me. Nicole may have some information on that.
It was originally set the way it was to cover the cost of running the program, obviously, the supplies that are required, the hauling charges, the cost of the compactor and maintenance of that. It also paid some of the other costs associated with the program, such as staff costs and other things related to that. And then it was also intended to build up a reserve. So for at some point in the future, when the compactor would need to be replaced or other things would become necessary, to be able to draw that out of the account. And so over the years, with plenty of money was going into the account. It was used, the compactor was hit by lightning a number of years ago. The building, the shed that it was that's over it, so the money was drawn from the account to replace that. I want to say it was like 2013 or something along those lines. And then just over the years, as costs have gone up, the amount that was able to be retained in the account dropped. But there was, on the Budget Committee at that time, or for many years, there was no desire to increase what were called the fees, the little fees, the non-tax taxes. And so there was really no push to ever increase the cost of the bags, trying to be mindful of that.
So the rest of the taxpayers were on the hook for paying for people that use the bags?
No,
Right,
so the bags, up until this past year, this program paid for itself entirely.
Gotcha.
It just wasn't, it slowly wasn't paying the other things, such as staffing costs and, proportion of the other parts of running the recycling center that it used to help to subsidize.
Does that number reflect the overall number, the total? Does that reflect all those little things?
It does not.
Does not. It's just
just
the
the
hauling
bags?
charges. And
Just to cover the...
Our cost to purchase the bags and our cost to dispose of the bags, or our hauler's cost to
So
dispose
it's
of the bags.
doubled in the last year.
Last value was what?
Yeah.
60%?
We went up 60% hauling fees and 4% in paying for the tonnage.
And that's on top of increases from prior years before that too. So it's, the whole cost of running the operation's gone dramatically in the last few years. Like everything else related to a truck hauling something similar.
Yeah, not a lot different than our annual budget with our diesel costs in-house as well. Very similar.
And when the price per roll, the town doesn't pay the price per roll because they're sold at different stores, right?
Right.
The end user pays the price per roll.
Mhm.
Do we know how many Has the amount of bags sold been consistent over the years? Has it lessened in recent years? Or
We've done a
people-
better job over the last 2 years tracking that, but there wasn't actually particularly great data preceding the last 2. So we're tracking that now. We developed an inventory system that didn't exist prior, and we have a much better handle on forecasting our needs. From what I've seen, from what we've captured for data, it's relatively constant. It's a static number at this point, but I just don't have the data from 10 years ago to suggest whether or not it's handling more or less, an appreciable amount more or less.
Thank you, Seth, for sending me this chart well ahead of time, so I had a chance to do a little bit of homework. I'm using my own family as a kind of a model for how much we spend a week on pay per throw. I called up MDS and found out what their domestic charges are. They have a bi-weekly rate and a weekly rate.
Is bi-weekly twice a week or every other week?
Every other week. And it's $135 for bi-weekly, $165 per quarter, so 3 months, 13 weeks. So if you work that out, it comes out to be roughly $10.38 per week if you went with their bi-weekly service, or $13 per week if you went with their weekly service. Working out what we spend, my wife does most of the, she doesn't let me go to the recycling center anymore because I tend to recycle back. Anyway, but she tells me that my family of three adults, uses roughly one small bag every 2 weeks, 75% of the time. And one large bag the other 25% of the time. And you work those numbers out. I'd be happy to go through them with you, but I don't think I need to. But essentially, it costs us about $5 a week, the way we've been recycling, the way we've been ridding our trash. Under the new scenario, and I didn't do it for each one of these, I probably should have created a spreadsheet to take a look at it. But under the new scenario, and using that same calculation, it's going to jump to about 11.25 a week. So we're comparing $10.38 bi-weekly, we go bi-weekly, and we would be spending about a buck, something more, a week to go to the recycling center. So, the price comparisons are there. So as a family, I'd have to make a decision, well, do I want to pay that extra money? Is it putting an undue burden on my family? A buck a week, no.
You're talking about the biggest jump.
No, I'm talking about the price increase without the 40, with
This
the break
one here?
even. No, the up, one up,
Oh, I see, the breaking.
yeah, the break even.
So if MDS picked up your trash at your house, that would include all your recyclables,
Right,
and you wouldn't recycle anything, so it'd probably be more than a small bag every 2 weeks.
well, there's no question about that, but they give you 90 cubic feet,
Okay.
which is,
A small bag is only $1.25. Or, sorry, $1.12.50.
oh, stupid me. I'm looking at the whole roll.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's why this chart was confusing. It should be broken down by bag.
Yeah.
Because, I use a large bag, like I said before, whatever it is, every 3 to 6 months. And,
So we're looking at a tenth of what I'm looking at here.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's minimal.
How many
And
bags
I'm always
are on
shocked
the
when I see people with their garbage cans out, and why they don't even use MDF.
I think it's 20 bags per roll.
20 bags.
Large bags are 10.
Large bags are 10.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the large bags are 10, the small bags are 10.
Yeah. So,
Boy, that was dumb. So it's actually a tenth of what I'm talking about, so we're only spending roughly
that's great news.
50 cents a week.
Yeah.
Huh.
Not including the time you would have to drive to Jaffrey.
Well, that's the thing, well,
Will they pick it up?
no, they
It
pick
would
it
be
up.
curbside.
They do?
Yeah, they give you receptacles, there's several on
Oh.
Pine Street who do it.
But then you'd be chasing down the windy road and Pine Street, I mean, they're going all the way down the Grand.
This is certainly much more economical. That was
Yeah.
a terrible mistake on my part. And I agree with you, Nate. I still wouldn't do it even if it was comparable priced, because of all the recycling.
Thanks, I wasn't sure if it was open.
Yeah.
Sure.
So if we don't buy blue bags, we can put a black Glad bag in the dumpster for $1, if it's a regular size.
$2, and if you look at the brochure, it should be $12 for anything under 200 pounds.
$12 a bag?
For anything under 200 pounds,
Uh-huh.
it's $12. If you look at the brochure that's at the recycling center.
But I guess what I'm saying is, if I throw away just a normal white or black trash bag, I usually get charged $1. Maybe
But you
$2.
shouldn't be, you should be charged $12. Based on the brochure that's at the recycling center, you should be charged $12.
Okay, well, that hasn't been happening for about 27 years. Just so you know.
It should be.
Yeah. I guess what I'm asking is, because that's not enforced, if I see this price increase and I'm like, screw it, I'm not buying blue bags, I'm just gonna throw my regular trash bag into the demo.
I have asked the leadership at that facility to
Yeah.
take a harder look at the enforcement very specifically. Given the cost of disposing of the other container is equally as high as the pay-as-you-throw program. So we're working on an enforcement issue there.
Okay. So my other question is, have you, and I don't know how, if you have to work with one company to get the blue bags removed, but is that competitive? Can you get price quotes for someone else to haul it away?
Instead of MDS,
Yeah.
I reached out and no one would give me a quote.
And I know that that's all run by, certain types of businesses, so.
Anyone close brings their trash to MDS.
It seemed to be a territorial business.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I understand.
But Nate did a lot of research there because when we started looking at this in the fall and knowing that we'd get into the budget, we wanted to make sure we explored those options.
And then no one will touch it.
Someone told me
unable
they
to
would give me a
find-
quote, and I reached out every couple weeks,
Yeah.
and it was crickets.
Yeah, yeah.
But they also bring what they pick up to MDS.
So for anybody, for all the people that are watching, and are gonna view this later, where can people purchase these blue bags? Because my inclination is to go with the bottom increase, the 60% increase, and kind of get us back to where we should have been if we were kind of creeping our prices up. And then thinking about one blue bag is only $2.40. Even if you do 2 of those, you got a big family, 2 of those per week, that's still only under $5 a week, as opposed to having the cans out in your front yard and getting picked up every other week for $10 or whatever. So I think it comes in even a little bit under if you're going every week with 2 bags. So
To your question, they're supplied through Shaw's, Beltate's, Agway, and the Greengrocer presently.
presently. Okay, great.
Yeah, when we report this out, boy, I'll tell you, I'm a mistake, but in any case, I think we can sell it on that basis. That make that price comparison, if you were getting hauled, it'll cost you like $5 for 2 large bags a week, whereas MDS will charge you 13.
And who doesn't see a friend they haven't seen in a while when they go to the recycling? Karen is always, my wife Karen, okay. We should go to the dump this Saturday. And I go, oh my God. And then we pack up the stuff and go to the dump. Oh, hey, how are you? Hey, good to see you. And I forget how enjoyable it really is. And it's really fun to throw the glass.
So, to your comment, Bill, depending on what the board decides to do with this, my intent would be, as of tomorrow, if you do this tonight, would be to draft a memo up, let the vendors know, and then craft something that does break it down. And I think that's good advice to get it down to the bag level, to let people know what that increase is, so that people aren't completely blindsided with it. But many will be, unfortunately, because I don't know that a lot tune into with these meetings. So
Well, the point of it being is the large bags are 33 gallons, they take 90 gallons, but as Nate pointed out, they don't recycle, so all your trash goes into that container. So if for some reason you needed 3 large bags, it would still be, you know, on around 90 gallons, 3 large bags, and still be cheaper.
So the people that are gonna get the most earful from this are the people selling it,
Maybe.
Oh, yeah.
right? So I've got my blue bags, I always pay $7.50, I walk up to the cash register and they'll be like, that's $12. You're like, what? No. Why?
Yeah.
Can you work with
Yeah.
the people that sell it to, you know, help? They will get an earful.
My hope is that they'll allow us to put something on the shelf, you know, some condensed version of what I'll end up writing, hopefully tomorrow.
Yeah.
So that it's there and hopefully help these folks out that are just working the crack
You have a
cash
little picture of your
register.
face with like a little bubble business.
And don't be shy, big
Nate, we'll put
red.
Nate's face. It's gonna be
Nate's face, perfect.
Yeah, and Seth, don't be shy with the graphics, big red price increase.
Yeah.
You know, just lay it out there. And, I mean, it's completely fair, anybody that would be angry with it, it's unfortunate.
Well, then they can buy a Glad bag and dispose of it for $12.
Yeah.
Right?
If we actually charge that.
Yeah.
And I think this is gonna encourage you a little bit more recycling, because people throwing everything into a blue bag. And, if they know they're gonna pay more because of that, it might give them the incentive to start sorting it a little bit better.
Good timing with our revitalized recycling advisory committee, with their emphasis on education and outreach.
Yeah, were you gonna add something? I saw your hand.
Yeah, I know I've mentioned this to you before, but before coming here, one of my hats was solid waste planning. So I actually have a lot of canned material that I used to give to towns for messaging, who were starting pay-as-you-throw, so I can pass that along if that's helpful. We used to
That's what I've said
help towns, a
over
lot of
and
towns
over.
with that.
Great. All right, so I'm going to make a motion that we do gently increase our prices all the way up to the 60% increase. And just, you know, I think it's totally fair. Motion.
It's a bit more complicated, but still, I could see I should have run the numbers on the 60% increase. I think that's a little bit much, but does that cover everything?
Yes.
Yeah, and that'll insulate us for a few years.
Well, I don't see any reason why we can't raise the prices every year if that's
Certainly could do
what we
that.
should be doing. So we shouldn't make this, you know, every 10 years we come to think about it, even though it's been more than 10 years. I'd like this to be a chronic conversation.
I would like to make a recommendation, though, that you increase it by, you know, anything 47% above, that way we can start saving a little bit of money, because right now, at 120,000, you know, that lower of the increases, we would only be paying the known expenses. We wouldn't be saving anything towards if the compactor were to break down, or if there was a out-of-cycle increase like we got this past year, the hauling charges going up in September, you know, just after we had started the new budget, and so we're prepared to. We really, you know, I think it would behoove us to have at least a few bucks going into the bank.
Oh, I agree. I just don't know that 60% increase is going to, it's going to be harder.
It is, but once it's done, it's done. And
Well, like
then-
I said, I'd like to do it every year, and I would advise for it. You guys can keep us informed as to what it's costing, and every year we'll raise it by, and then it will be a few percent, rather than a huge 50% increase or 60%.
And then have people angry every year?
Yeah. No, I don't think that, you can't be angry if it's only like 50 cents more on a bag of turtle, a roll of 10. But you can certainly get angry if it's going to be
$5 more?
$5
a roll? I mean,
it's not huge, but
I mean, we're talking about $5 here. We have a budget that's 14-something million that people are gonna go, all right, no problem. You know, hopefully, fingers crossed. I mean, that's kind of been the trajectory of our budgets.
yeah,
Okay, so I had a motion for 60%. Am I not hearing a second?
No, I'm gonna motion that we do the 53%.
Okay, so the motion for a 60% increase has failed to garner a second. So, okay, now, what's your motion,
So
sir?
my motion is we accept the 53% increase.
53%. I don't know if I want to cave. So, it's just.
I'm compromising
One
here.
more dollar. Yeah.
All right, you can
See,
do
now, if Taylor was here, all right, so you had, all right, I'll second the motion to go up to $43 per hour, 50%. And then Bill Kennedy can make the motion next year to go up to 75, to go up to 25, 25.
$24, $25.
Okay, so, anybody else want to convince us not to do anything? No? All right, all those in favor?
All right.
For the 53% increase?
I think we can argue the doubling of the, or the 50% increase, not doubling the cost, but
All right.
does that sound acceptable? We want to keep the numbers even as they are, so that 53%, we can just simply say, yeah, that's about 50%.
There's going to be a run on bags at the stores tomorrow, by the way. The 7 people that are tuning in.
Immediately. I mean, our commitment is to keep digging into this. This is an older program that's established long ago, has functioned fairly well, but it seems to be leaking a little bit at this point. You can see it.
I agree.
The cost of the economy really hurts programs like this, and it's incumbent on us, which is one of the reasons I got Nate involved and other members of the staff, to start taking a harder look at how the operation really runs.
Good.
We've been working on a number of things to try and make it a little bit more efficient of a facility, and now we're starting to scratch the surface on, okay, financially, how do we make this make a little more sense long-term? So absolutely, our commitment is definitely to come back, keep evaluating this. It worked well for a long time. It needs a little bit more attention than it was receiving in the
Well, I think
past.
it's a great program, it's just needs that attention.
But the questions also remain, are we doing it as effectively as possible to both keep our costs down, but also drive the amount of recyclables that do maybe we don't make much on, but help us to defray some costs. And anecdotally, I agree with you, Bill. There seems to be less, but I don't have the numbers to support that. And we certainly want to make sure that we're taking a hard look at the operation and also encouraging recycling in the community. It's to our benefit environmentally, but also financially.
Exactly.
But we've got a good team involved now, so.
Thanks.
Great, nice work, thanks.
Yeah.
See you next year. All right, up next, we'll have, we're in the same public hearing, all right? And we're going to discuss recreation facilities rules and regulations. Welcome, Ms. Copeland, for recycling center. I mean, the recreation department, sorry.
Again, we're gonna be going over fees, just fees, we're not looking at the entire chapter.
Right.
Which slide do you pull up first?
I have the memos up, so I don't know which memo.
No, whatever memo you pull up next, just a second. Okay, this is Cunningham Pond.
Yep.
Great. It's been $25 for not having a current parking sticker forever and a day, as long as I can remember. And so people have said to us, right to our face, I'm gonna risk getting a ticket instead of paying the $20 day pass fee. So when I met with the rec committee about all this and try to figure out, plug some of the holes, this was a hole that we would love to plug and raise the violation fee to $100. It's going to require a lot of publicity for the public, but I think it will catch the people who are abusing it. And I think it will accommodate the residents who think we have too many non-residents there.
How common is it that people are abusing?
It depends on who you talk to. I mean, we get calls in the office saying, I can't believe the number of non-resident cars. And we're like, well, we sell non-resident stickers. As far as unstickered cars, I have asked the staff if we have more than 5 or 6, please call the PD to have a cruiser come up. So it's not uncommon to have 3 or 4, to answer you directly.
And how many violations do we actually hand out a year?
That I did not follow up on, I'm sorry, I should have.
My anecdotal is that we tend to go to Cunningham Pond in the afternoon, like at 4 o'clock. You know, take a dip after work or when things are starting. And it was very common that people would be pulling in right around that time without it's a matter of enforcement. But then again, there's not that many people there at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so. And I do know that the police department has complained about the fact that it's difficult for them to go out there and enforce this kind of thing all the time. But I personally think that bringing it up to $100 makes a lot of sense. It's a good deterrent. And we could have just some big signs at the entrance saying, look, if you don't have a sticker, you could be fined $100. And that may deter some people. Some people are arrogant enough to pay the $100. But
I agree. Do we need a motion for these or just?
You don't have to do it individually, we can just do them all together.
Well, what if we don't? Okay.
Well, thank you for that one. This one's going to be a little bit harder. It's the first year I, as a director, have ever broken down the cost of the pool expense-wise. Revenue and expenses, and we lose a fair amount of money on the pool. So again, I brought that to the rec committee and said, this is what I would like to do. I would like to increase our fees. Our fees were off anyway from a comparison standpoint for a resident and non-resident. Nicole, would you mind going to the yellow slide? Here we go. Because it's considered land and water conservation fund monies, they have rules and regulations as to how much you can charge. And what they said was, you can't exceed the 50%, twice amount is charged. So if we go back to what I'm presenting and what the rec committee came up with, going up from $2 to $5, which would be a big bite for residents. I'll address that in a minute further down, and $10 for the non-residents. So you have that 50, the 200% split. The non-resident seasons pass would be a new type of membership. We had it many moons ago, we don't have it now. And again, you have that 200% differential, and then the seasons. So the 25 would be up from 12, and the 75 up from 49. When I was comparing other towns, and I compared Concord, Keene, and Milford, this is where I'm going to need this, excuse me. Concord lets their residents swim free, and they charge for non-residents.
same measure.
Milford charges $5 for walk-in, $10 for non-resident, $25 for seasonal, $50 for non-resident, and $500 for a family seasons pass versus $100 for a non-resident. Plus, many of the towns define them by the number of individuals in a family. So that's another thing we'd like to change, is not make it unlimited. You're a 15-person household, therefore you get your pool pass for $49 or $75. And every individual over that would be an extra $10 to kind of provide a little bit of equity there and prevent some of the abuse. So I did Milford. Keene charges, they don't have a walk-in fee that I could find, but they charge $50 for a resident for a season's pass, $60 for a non-resident, and then $60 for a resident family, and $130 for a non-residential family. And they also limit the number of household folks. So we're dealing with kind of a three-pronged fork here. We've got a significant deficit. We have to have that 50% 50% or 100% increase split. And, yeah, I forget my third. So these are the prices that the rec committee and I came up with. My initial proposal was less than this because I think that is a decent height for residents. But then I go back to the rec committee and I are also exploring scholarships, and we'd like to open a scholarship program to cover pool expenses. So that would take care of the most needy that need.
Would there be a limit to the number of non-residents seasonal individual passes? Since
Not for the pool, we never have.
And so there's never been a limit to the number of passes sold, and it doesn't seem to be a problem with overcrowding or overuse?
I believe so.
And are we selling a bunch of passes?
We do sell a lot of passes.
Yeah.
We tried a punch pass system, I don't know, 2 years ago maybe, where they could buy X number of visits. We had all of 10 people take advantage of that for the whole summer last year, so it's not worth it.
Did anybody on the rec committee balk at any increases? Because I've had concern for many years for the cost of this pool, finishing it, and painting it, and a pool in New England. I don't think it's the wisest thing, but I've been convinced, or my concerns have been kind of tamped a bit by the fact that we're offering an amenity in our town to people that would bring a family here to one of the. It's something that everybody has access to in our town. Would that be a hardship?
That's why we're going to be working on scholarships. It might be. I don't think so when you look at other pools. And these prices were 2023, not 2024. So no, I don't think it's going to be a shocker, and it's going to be I can't believe you're doing this, but when you look at the size of the deficit that the pool runs, I think we need to address it appropriately.
You guys might as well sell the blue trash bags up there.
There you go, we could do that.
They're going to be.
Well, I'd already argued for cost increases for the pool and other recreational things last year. And that didn't seem to go very far, so I'm fully behind this. If we were to accept these rate changes, of course, we're gonna look at new revenue for season 2024. Is this reflected in the rec budget?
It couldn't be reflected because it's not approved.
It's not in the rec budget, but that money will be available.
Right.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm going after here is that it's not such a large amount of money that it's going to have much effect on the budget itself.
No, and when it comes to tax rate setting, if that's what you're getting at,
Yeah.
we have to file a report of revenues with the DRA ahead of tax rate setting. That gets filed in September, so it will capture all
It'll
this revenue.
capture this.
Yes.
Okay.
So it doesn't necessarily need to be in the budget. We're going to look at actual revenues in the fall anyways.
And if we approve this, this will take effect immediately, essentially.
Correct.
Right, we
Okay.
have,
So it'll be ahead of the season.
we have not we posted the previous pool rates for the playground program because we had to get that up and going, but we haven't posted any of this yet. It's closed to the public until I know what's going on.
So I make the motion that we accept this.
Let's hear from
Comments?
Of course. I have to have a comment. I don't use Cunningham Pond, so as a resident of Peterborough, would it cost me to go to Cunningham?
For your first vehicle, no. You just need to come in and get a sticker and bring in your car registration
Yep.
and your license. But if you have, say, 3 vehicles in your house, it would be $15 a pop per vehicle. So if you want to register all 3 cars, it costs you $30.
Okay, so one car gets in
It's
for
free.
free.
Correct.
Okay. Are there lifeguards there?
No, we haven't had lifeguards in the past couple, 3-4 years.
But there's obviously a cost of maintaining Cunningham Pond, the
Oh,
building.
for sure.
Okay.
Like, we just did a whole mess of stormwater remediation up there.
Mhm.
We had to buy sand because a lot of the sand flew out.
Okay.
But yes,
Okay, so as a resident, if I have a vehicle, it would behoove me to go to Cunningham Pond rather than the pool, because it's gonna cost me to walk in and bring my children. How does the scholarship program work?
We're duking that out right now.
Okay.
I'd rather not go into it because we're still duking it out.
That's fine. I just didn't, I've never heard of that before for the pool, so I wasn't
Well,
sure.
it hasn't been before.
Okay. So I guess I just don't understand, why would it cost me to go to the pool and it doesn't cost me to go to Cunningham?
The operational expenses are so much more.
That's right.
Like I said, the deficit is significant.
Okay. And no other part of the, I don't know, I don't follow the rec departments, I don't know if any other part of the budget can make up for that? There, you can't do that.
You can't make up for
You
that.
can't do that. Okay. Does Jaffrey have a town pool?
They have a pond.
They have a pond. Okay. So the examples that you gave were communities that have town-owned pools.
Correct.
And remind me, how many of those don't charge?
Just one,
Nashua,
Concord.
Concord.
And Nashua, I guess, but I didn't use that
Yeah, I
as an
looked up
example.
Nashua.
Okay.
Nashua doesn't charge. They have 2 pools, actually.
Yeah.
So I wonder how it could be that they don't charge.
They included
They
in their
absorb
budget.
it in their
Meanwhile,
patches.
is paying for it.
Oh,
What do you mean?
They're the huge taxpayer. They have Nashua has an enormous commercial base, commercial industrial tax base.
Okay.
And so they have the resources to be able to offer that to their residents. That would be my guess. And then, Concord, that's just how they set theirs up.
Does Nashua have trash pickup?
They do, yeah.
There you go.
And Paywood's has sort of Keene, a lot of the much larger communities.
I guess I'm just really concerned that, I remember a couple of years ago, I think it was before the splash pad went in, and maybe before the pool got redone, and people were complaining about the price having to pay as a resident.
They did not pay before we renovated the pool. As a resident,
It was afterwards.
It was afterwards, because it was a change. But then you have all the extra expenses added to that.
Yeah.
And do you want to throw that in the general fund, or do you want, well, it's got to be in the general fund, but do you want to not compensate with no revenue coming in because they're using the pool? Or do you want the non-pool goer to pay more for the pool goer?
So if I'm a walk-in, it's myself, my husband, and 3 kids, it's gonna cost me $25.
As a walk-in, as a resident, yes. That's
That's
why it would
insane.
behoove you to get a season's pass.
And it's a short season.
It's a short season.
Boy, does it get hot.
It's
And it gets
with
hot,
lights.
and the pool isn't open because the kids aren't out of college yet.
Yes, that's what gets us in August. Yeah.
Thank you. I
Oh,
don't
you're
follow this
welcome.
closely, so I have a lot of really stupid questions.
No,
And
they're not
We're
stupid.
committed to keeping this pool.
I think that decision was made.
Yeah, it was made when it was
Such a huge
renovated.
investment into it. And it is very, very popular though during
It is,
during the summer. Kids love that place.
It's a great, I will say, the difference between Cunningham Pond and Adams Pool really comes down to the services. Without lifeguards, at Cunningham Pond, I don't want to bring my grandkids there anymore because they're little grandkids and they scatter. I much prefer bringing them to somewhere like Adams Pool where there's lifeguards, there's a splash pad for the little kids, and it's just a more controlled area.
Yeah.
So, I think there is a cost to that. If you look at Lisa's rec department budget, you'll see that the pool does take up a large amount of resources. So a small amount of compensation, I think, is more than fair, especially with the scholarship program. I know that we had already built in some of the, some discounts to the pool pass and the swimming lessons into the summer program already for the kids, because there there are kids and families who qualify for a reduced rate on those. So broadening it to families that, just don't have the means but want to be able to take advantage of the facility, I think makes real good sense, and I'm really glad that the rec committee is exploring that. I
Yeah.
think that's valuable.
I mean, sure, when you look at it per person, it doesn't seem like a big jump, and when you've got a family of 3
Oh, I
or
get it.
whatever.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. But I think it's, again, it's valuable, it is expensive, there's a real cost to it, so, it's always been a balancing act of, making sure that we're being, understanding of the person who, is paying their property tax bill, never uses the pool, doesn't have kids to bring there or anything like that, and trying to minimize the impact that it has on them to keep this thing operating, but at the same time, trying not to charge so much that people don't want to use the pool,
Right.
don't want to bring their families there. So it is, it's a real,
Synopsis.
yeah, it's a real balance, but.
It's yet one more reason why families like to live in Peterborough, if they can afford it.
Right, and so that's it?
Yep.
Yes. Thank you.
We're gonna make a motion.
I was making a motion to the changes in the charge rates that are proposed.
Yeah, I'll second that. All those in favor? Nice work, please,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Should have done it last year, I asked you to.
We're getting there. We're getting
No, that was
there.
great, that was great. I think we need to do that. I know that they're doing it at the recycling center,
Yeah,
all across the entire town, because our expenses have gone through the roof,
right. They
and our
have.
revenues are kind of flat. I don't know if we're going to make a lot up in revenues, but anywhere we can chip at
Well,
it.
Recreation is trying to work on that.
Yeah, anywhere we
So-
can chip at it.
All right, up next, we have Danica Melone, Town Planner, in to discuss about Affordable Housing Committee's request for an application for mini housing grant.
I'm actually gonna let.
Housing
No.
committee grant.
Oh, you want me to do it?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
I'm only here for support.
Sorry. So we're looking to apply for a grant. Can I actually borrow that little comic real quick? I'm just gonna hold it up.
Yeah, I brought some.
So we have this really wonderful workforce housing comic done by New Hampshire Housing. Carol has done a lot of the legwork with the housing committee to reach out to Conval's theater department to ask them to act this out. The housing committee has also reached out to Drum to see if they would be able to record it and do some editing of that production to kind of turn it into a short clip. So we have all of the estimates in place, so now we're asking for the ability to apply for a grant from New Hampshire Housing to fund the ability to do that work. Knowing the budget that we put forward for FY25, we did ask for funds for the housing committee, but because of the school year schedule, we're looking for this to be done before school gets out this coming, in June when they leave for the summertime. So funds might be available to the committee later on down the line, but we'd like to apply for this grant. And I would add that there's no match involved, it's
Right.
just the 1200.
This was discussed at the recent EDA meeting, as you recall, and your recommendation was to do this. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, the EDA was very excited.
About the grant?
They thought this was a really great idea
yeah.
to be
Great
able
idea.
to create a little clip with Drum acting this out and involving the youth.
Yeah.
Pretty exciting project.
Cool.
New Hampshire Housing's kind of already heard about it at a
Oh,
summary
yeah.
level,
Yeah.
and they seemed very enthusiastic about it as well.
There's a lot of support in the EDA for housing at this point. In fact, the funds that were being allocated for social media campaign are being directed at housing. So in other words, the money that we're spending with Drum through the EDA on social media promotion of the town would now be promoting housing in the town.
By Drum.
Yeah, so-
Drum would still be involved, but
Yep, so that was a big surprise at the last meeting, and actually I've not met with the co-chairs yet to kind of talk about
Tomorrow.
what they'd kind of like to see out of that, but the EDA as a whole sort of said we'd actually be interested in giving that whole contract and the funds available to the housing committee. We think they'd get more out of it. So the social media that we are doing through June 30 of this year, we'd finish out, and then a new contract would start with the new funds for the fiscal year. So we'll have to talk with Drum about recrafting that contract and the scope of their work. But yeah, it's kind of a surprise that they were interested in letting go of that altogether.
We
So,
were thrilled, so thank
Yeah.
you to the EDA for that.
Yeah.
Is there any need for us to change, vote on the allocation of those funds? Because we did, it was for the contract for drum, but it's still for a contract.
It's
for
not,
drum, right?
it wasn't specifically to drum, it was
For marketing.
for marketing, correct?
marketing and social.
Yes,
Okay.
so it's-
Yep.
Okay.
So really no change as far as that goes.
Great.
We will have to approve it for next year, but we've already approved, we've recommended the budget, it's in the budget, so.
So next year, when we come back for FY '26, we'll probably come back with a very different presentation of those funds.
Great, we need a motion or just a blessing?
Well, I guess I think we need a motion, right?
Need a motion to authorize Danica, I assume you're going to sign off on it, authorize Danica to apply to the InvestNH Hampshire, or whatever it is, New Hampshire Housing Mini Grant Program.
Yep.
So moved.
Say, move what she said.
All those in favor?
It sounded good.
Aye. Yeah,
Great.
great. All right, thank you for the work. And speaking of housing, I don't know if you guys all remember, it was maybe a month ago, we had a demolition review committee public hearing regarding four houses currently to be demolished or completed, and we hoped we could save housing for 4 possible families in some regard. And we lost terribly. Once again, deaf ears, and houses are now being torn down as we speak. So
Which committee is this?
this was the demolition review committee.
Oh,
Public
okay.
hearing. It's a subcommittee of the Heritage Commission. Yes. So knock them down there and try and build them somewhere else.
Historic buildings too, which is even more tragic.
Yeah. Or just, whatever.
Speaking of housing.
Nobody cares.
What's the status of that Catholic Charities Boss Farm Road project? Are they fully funded yet, or?
They're almost there. Actually, I talked to them today. They're applying for some more state funding to round them out. We've not officially submitted that per unit grant application that I got your busing for. We're just waiting on building permits to be submitted. Those have to be approved, and we should be good to go. But it seems, I get the sense that all the puzzle pieces are in place. They just really need to come together and be solidified at this point. I am told that they're closing on the property the first week in April.
Oh, great.
Good.
So their plan is to break ground early fall.
And I get a lot of questions about the Woodman's property.
Mhm.
Any progress there?
Yeah, so they've submitted all of their building permit applications.
Okay.
They did have some issues with them. One of the main issues with that property is actually the 100-year floodplain comes up across the road. So flood proofing and elevations is something that they'll have to make sure it can be accommodated, which I think that they forgot about the first round of building permit applications, but they've since been fixed. So they're moving forward, but I am told also that this contracting outfit tends to be very slow anyways. So it seems to be their MO is just moving very slowly.
Just realize that there's a fair amount of misinformation out there. I've been
Yeah.
trying to address it as well.
I've heard that there's been a lot of stuff swirling. They're moving forward. They've got the building permits in place, but we've been told by other people who've worked for them in the past that they've just always moved very, very slowly on things.
Yeah, well, guess who gets the blame?
Right. Right.
Well, it's him.
Well, I recall when that went through planning board, I was liaison then, and we did have that whole discussion about the floodplain and all that. So the original applicants did know very well
Right.
about it, and maybe that information got lost.
It's been years, right? Right.
And owners has changed.
Yeah,
Yeah, the owners has changed. Yeah, they just got their private road approved last week,
Oh,
actually.
they did?
Yep. When was that? They went out and inspected it and gave approval.
All right.
Isn't FEMA reviewing all those floodplain?
No.
No.
I get to.
Oh, that's right.
Because we are a CRS community, I have to review all of them for accuracy. And we have one shot at doing it correctly, and if the second time we still get it wrong, we actually lose our certification as a Class 8 community. So the stakes are incredibly high to make sure that compliance is met. But again, the reason for that is because we are a Class 8 community, everyone that has flood insurance gets a 10% discount on their insurance, their flood insurance.
Which is why we're trying a new program out.
Right.
New software package.
Yep, which we used today was very exciting.
Okay.
Yep.
And you just redid that, wasn't it last month? We resubmitted the CRS? Or no?
Yep. We have to annually recertify, and then there's a 5-year audit, pretty much, by FEMA, and comes in to make sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to do.
Great. All right.
Thanks for the overview. Sorry that you have to do it.
Happy to do it.
All right, up next,
Yeah, I think
thank
we're
you.
good to go.
request to expend from trust funds.
Yes.
Yeah. Seth, can you talk about this? Or?
Seth wants to buy a tractor.
Happy to. This was capitalized debt vote last year. Went through the CIP process, not this year, but the year prior. The request is for $85,409 from the Fleet Management Capital Reserve for a basically a utility tractor. So basically the same as you see when DOT does roadside mowing. Similar tractor. I think we're still eyeing a John Deere. Can't recall. I'm pretty sure it's a John Deere tractor that Tim had, our highway superintendent had found within our budget, confirmed that the money's available through the Fleet Management Capital Reserve, and so that's what you're considering tonight. So it'll allow us to grade roads, light duty work around town, and a lot of mowing, roadside mowing, which we have been able to. We had originally contracted out. We brought it back in-house a few years ago. And we squeaked every minute we could out of our older machine. We were using our backup sidewalk tractor and an old mower attachment that our staff had actually repaired and got back in service after sitting for many years. So the time had come, which is why we did the process the year prior. But a very useful machine for our highway department.
Thanks, Seth. And then the flyover.
The flyover.
Obviously, we know about that. It happens
Yep.
all the time.
That's $91,000 for a flyover.
Yes, so it's actually, there's a lot of components to a flyover. You get the orthographic information. They use LiDAR to see through the foliage, get right to the ground. It identifies everything, absolutely everything, stone walls, old cellar holes, all kinds of stuff. But the cool thing about this new one is we will have 3D imagery now. So that's a neat new add-on. And the great thing is it's all going to be trued up to our GIS database, so everything's going to match. There's definitely a cost to doing that as well. We only do this every so often. We try to, we milk that data as much as we possibly can. But of course, there are a lot of changes. Anytime you get new construction, anytime. Someone is adding on to a house or, fills a pool or whatever, there's changes that go along, and those things add up over a number of years, making our GIS becomes less and less accurate over time. So it is really important that we update these every so often. Hopefully someday, the state will, the state has been promising for many years to make their GIS program more robust. They haven't done that yet. But it would be really great if they did, then we'd be able to incorporate that data and make our flyovers last a little bit longer, go a little bit further in between.
You're not holding your breath. over
I am
that.
absolutely not holding my breath on that, but it would
You've
be
dealt with this
really
thing
nice.
before.
Would be really nice. But until then, we have an incredible GIS database, as you know. We use it for virtually everything. I don't think there's a department in town that doesn't use that information. It saves us a fortune every time we do any kind of construction, whether it's road construction or building, because we don't have to pay engineers to do that work. They're able to utilize our existing data, and of course the regular residents have access to it as well, and it's incredibly beneficial to them. Anyone who has current use, land in current use, knows just how valuable it is to be able to go online and put a little box around where their house is and be able to calculate exactly how much land that they have in current use. Saves them a fortune.
Is this a flight that's up high enough? Thanks, Carol. See it
Yeah.
up high enough with one pass, it captures the whole town? Or
No,
are they going
they go back and forth. Go back and
You
forth.
stitch it all together.
And stitch it, yeah, exactly.
And so anybody that would want to be outside waving, so they're captured in.
They can do that, yes.
Just
Yep.
don't be
We'll
Sunday.
know the date.
Yeah, it's incredibly accurate. The information's incredibly accurate. So yeah, if you were to look up, they would probably now be able to get your face. pretty
Facial
good.
recognition,
Yeah.
busted. Careful what you're doing in your woods. All right, I make a motion to expend these funds from the trust funds.
Since we only have one person left in the audience, did you have anything to say about it, Sal?
He already did.
I'm a big fan of GIS and roadside mowing.
I will second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. And then the last thing we have is the minutes.
A motion to approve those minutes from March 14th.
I agree.
Incredibly exciting minutes.
I'll second it. And
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then I would like in other business, request to go into non-public session pursuant to RSA 91A:3, Roman numeral 2L, consideration of legal advice.
Okay, before we do that though, I do want to just mention in the consent agenda, there's a notice from NHDOT about the resumption of the bridge project at 101 by the plaza. People were concerned that it was left as it was.
Yeah,
Like,
as it
oh,
was.
they never finished, they did a terrible job. If any of the two people are still watching this, tell your friends that that bridge is back up and back at the repair stage, right? Okay,
point of order, did we close the public session?
public hearing?
Did the public hearing?
Oh, I don't think you technically.
Is that your
did.
motion?
That was my motion.
Yeah.
I'll
To
second that.
retroactively.
Retroactively close the,
All those in favor of closing that public
just
hearing?
occurred to me that we didn't do that. I agree.
Good catch.
Yeah.
All right, and I would make a motion that we enter the non-public session to go to RSA 91.
A3, Roman numeral 2, L.
L, for legal.
All right,